Good morning, everybody, on this wonderful rainy morning. There's just a giant surge of rain, so I hope you can't hear that coming through the window over the microphone. Welcome to the Connection Corner. I'm Barb Nangle. I'm the community manager of Known Coworking. In a moment, I'm going to introduce you to Amie Smith. She is one of the owners of VR Game Truck New England. She's going to talk about virtual reality and gaming. But first, I want to introduce you to this show and to Known Coworking. So you may have noticed it's no longer called Known Live. Known Live is now the umbrella term for our suite of virtual programs. And we've renamed this show to Connection Corner because that's what we do. We connect people. And Known Live, again, refers to the whole suite of programming. Known is a dynamic co working community to connect people across their fields of expertise, endeavors, and experiences. And though we started as a co working space in downtown New Haven, and by the way, we're still the only co working space in downtown New Haven, we moved our community here online during quarantine. And as a reminder, in this space, we have hourly, daily, and monthly dedicated desks and offices to meet your not work from home needs. If you'd like to know more about the space, feel free to send me an email, barb@knowncoworking.com. You can also check us out at knowncoworking.com or follow us on Instagram at knowncoworking, same handle on Facebook. I mentioned that we moved our community online once quarantine arrived, and as a result, we now have three virtual programs. We have Digital Media Sync, the Connection Corner, and Pivot Talk. You can catch replays of all of our episodes under virtual programming on our website. So let me just tell you briefly about each of those programs. Digital Media Sync is your window to the digital world. It airs on Tuesdays at 8:30 in the morning. It's hosted by Julia Gooch. She is the social media maven of Agents of Branding. So anything you want to know about social media, you go to that show, and it's all free. It's pretty amazing. This past week, I was actually the guest on the show because I talked about my top 10 apps to keep life manageable. This show, Connection Corner, is a place for entrepreneurs, artists, creators, thinkers, educators, and community members to share who they are, what they do, who they serve, and how. It airs approximately weekly and it's 30 to 45 minutes and it airs at a time that's convenient for the guest. And it's broadcast, as all our shows are, live on Facebook as well as YouTube, and then the videos are stored on our website. And then our third show is called Pivot Talk. This is a virtual stage for businesses to share and learn as they grow. Yesterday, we featured Olmo Kitchen's Craig Hutchinson, and Juan, who's the owner of Known, said it was one of the best pivot talks that we did. He felt like there was lots of juicy, concrete information for other folks who are pivoting. So be sure to watch the replay of that. Craig really talked about how they very quickly and very significantly pivoted once the quarantine hit, but they also stuck very closely to their core values. So if you or anyone you know might want to be on any one of these shows, drop me an email. Again, it's barb@knowncoworking.com. Our purpose, both in the physical world and in the virtual spaces, is to make connections between people. So we're here to help you get connected, get inspired, and get known. Now, without further ado, let me introduce you to Amie Smith. So Amie and her husband owned virtual reality VR Game Truck New England. So Amie, how about if you start with who you are, what you do, and how you got started, and then of course what we really want to hear about is virtual reality and gaming. But take it away.
Hi, thanks for having me, Barb. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this.
Me
So,
too.
virtual reality, or I should say VR Game Truck New England, the VR stands for virtual reality, obviously, is a mobile entertainment system where we take our 30-foot gaming trailer out to wherever the client wants to have us, whether it's at their house, at a park, at a business, a place of business. And we run everything right inside of the game truck. So we have um, all different systems in there, and we have a lot of awesome virtual reality experiences. And it's just really unique and convenient because you don't have to leave the comfort of your home. You can have us come right out to you or right out to your place of business. And it just makes things a lot easier for people to not have to think about the travel, especially during this time with quarantine and the pandemic and everything. And we have a lot of unique experiences, and it's just something that's a little different for most people. It's helps, I can't even explain like it's just a lot of fun to try virtual
Yeah.
reality. And if you're over the bounce houses or the trampoline parks or having, whatever kind of, experience you've had with your kids or with your coworkers, trying to give them like a team building experience, it's something different for everybody to try out.
So since you mentioned quarantine, I'm sure people are going to be thinking, how are you handling social distancing and all that sort of thing? So why don't you tell us about that?
So we're following a lot of the guidelines that the state has given for small businesses. We currently have a capacity limit to 50% of what our normal capacity is. So 10 people at a time in the game truck, which gives them a nice amount of distance between them. We're requiring masks to be worn, of course, and we have really strict sanitizing regimens before, during, and after every single event. As people are passing gaming controllers, we take them, we clean them, we pass them to the next person. With virtual reality, for people who are not familiar, it's a headset that goes on your head. So of course, that's something that's of a big concern to people, and it all gets sanitized. I have gaming coaches inside the game truck every time we do an event, and those people are there to help our clients get in and out of the headsets and get them set up with the games. And each time they do that, they'll take the headset, they, wipe it down, sanitize it, get it cleaned up for the next person. That way nothing is getting passed from person to person inside the truck.
Fantastic. So I want to tell people how I met you. So I mentioned earlier, like what we do here is we connect people. And I met Amie at a networking event, which I think was a Shoreline Chamber event in Brantford. And when I heard her do her like whatever 1 minute, 2 minute pitch, I was like, oh my God, that sounds so cool. I almost said it sounds dope. I'm too old to use the word dope, but it slips out every
No, you're
once in
not.
a while. I was like, oh my God, that sounds so dope. And I had to reach out to her. And so we've met a couple of different times. And the last time we chatted, I was like, wait a minute, we need to have you on our known live programming because people need to know about this. I think one, the whole concept of virtual reality is just mind blowing to me. And then the idea that you bring the truck to people just is really innovative. And I'm going to tell you, I mentioned this actually on Tuesday on Julia's digital media sync. And I think I've told you before, I have this little mini fantasy that you're going to bring your truck to the lower section of Orange Street. The city will close it off and you'll be on the same street as Elm City Games and Barcade. It will be like game day in New Haven.
Oh my
So
God,
people
that'd
can
be so
do
much fun.
virtual reality, your video games, the arcade games at Barcade, and the board games at Elm City Games. So if there's anybody from Barcade or Elm City Games watching, please help me make
Let's
this
do
happen.
this.
This is just like a fantasy that I have. But anyway, the idea that you can bring your truck to people. And so Amie actually did an event with a multi-church youth group that that's part of my church. And I was able to go and get on the truck and see the kids, and the kids were like over the moon about it. And I feel like everybody's really clear. Kids would love this. But I know that you have done corporate events and that sort of thing too. So can you talk about like why a business might want to book you and have you come there, and like what do people get out of it, and what are they saying about it, and what kind of businesses might be interested in bringing you to their spot?
Yeah, so we have done quite a few corporate events. We've done a couple of things with some financial companies for their employees. They do get-togethers like once a year, and it's unique in the way that it can be a team building experience. When you have that group of employees in there and they're sitting together playing a video game. I think people have such a negative association with video games nowadays, but really there's so many games that you sit together and play, and there's a little bit of like happy competition between people, but then there's a lot of games that are also co-op games. And I think people don't realize that about video gaming, is that there are a lot of games where you have to work together and you have to communicate. So watching the employees from these different businesses playing games like that, where they've got to talk a lot and communicate to make things work in the game, is really incredible. And that's the kind of stuff we like to bring to events, like corporate events and team building situations. Even things like you mentioned, the church, school gatherings and things like that. We love to see the kids working together to get to like the final product of a video game, which is a lot of fun. And with the virtual reality, it's a very similar situation. They may not be working together, but they're watching each other experience these things and talking to each other, like talking through the games. And it's just, it brings so much joy to watch people get together and do that kind of stuff. And I think it, within the business sphere, it really does give people a different view of how to work with their employees and with their coworkers.
Wonderful. And I know, like, one of the things, I think a couple times I've talked to you, you had just gotten done doing birthday parties, which, I mean, sounds like an obvious thing for me. So you mentioned you can have 10 people at a time in the truck, but like, what's the largest number of people gathering that you think makes sense? If everybody at the gathering wanted to come in the truck, like, what would be the largest number of people? What would be the time period that would really make sense so that everybody got to have a satisfying amount of time on the games?
I think it really depends on how much time you want to give. So we've done, like private parties upwards of 40 people, and in a 2-hour time frame, if there's 40 kids, we can give them each 30 minutes in the game truck, and we have enough virtual reality stations and video games to keep them all entertained while, they're taking turns trying things. So, we can do stuff like that. Smaller gatherings are nice because people do get a little more time. They get to experience more of the virtual reality that we have, versus just picking one thing to try and then, they've got to leave. So, 20 people is a really great number because, if it's 20 kids, they each get an hour in the game truck. If it's 20 people total and the adults want some time, which most of the adults want to at least try something, it gives them all some time as well. So 20 is usually a good suggestion, but we've done events for schools where we've had, over 100 people there, and you just, you have to rotate them through a little quicker, and you kind of got to learn, okay, I have a feeling this group's going to want to do this, or, you start to pick up on the energy of the kids and what they're going to want to do to try and make sure everybody gets a good experience.
Yeah. So I'm sure people are wondering about pricing. Do you charge by the person, by the hour? Like, how does that work?
We charge by the hour. We have a minimum of 2 hours. And it really kind of depends on what type of gaming package they're looking for and where they're located, because we do travel all the way into parts of New York, Westchester and White Plains, and those areas. So most of Connecticut has a set pricing, but it does vary a little bit.
And I noticed that it's called Game Truck New England. So does that mean that you would go to Maine or Vermont or New Hampshire?
We wouldn't quite go that far, but we have gone into Massachusetts, Rhode Island, again, down into New York. We go, we've done, we haven't had a lot of requests for anything too far north. We've gone, as far as a little above Springfield, gone into the Bronx. Had a couple of.
It must be wild to drive your truck there.
It's interesting.
It's
a learning, and every time I leave a little more confident in my driving skills, every time I don't practice something and I'm driving into an area like that.
Yeah. With all the just tons of cars and that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of want to shift now into talking about the business and how, like, you've told me, like, how did it come to be that you had this business? So I'd love for you to tell the story about how, your husband's always looking for blah, 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 and then how you guys hit on the game truck. Because a lot of the people in our audience are entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs.
Right.
And so to hear people's story of, like, how'd you find the thing is always really interesting.
So, to be perfectly honest, I was never an entrepreneur. I was always a 9 to 5er. I worked in my previous life in retail for 13 and a half years in the same business, in the same company. And my husband has always been an entrepreneur at heart. He's always comes up with these wacky ideas that he wants to try out. And it was always me being that voice of reason going, no, 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 let's just stick with what we know. And, he works often in New York City. He's in construction, and he came home one day and said, "Oh, my buddy was talking about this business he's looking into, and it's kind of cool. It's a gaming truck, but it for traveling, like a food truck." And it kind of gave me a little pause, and I was like, "All right, that's interesting. Let's do our research. Let's look into this." And so we took a little bit of time. That was in June of 2018. We took a little bit of time to research it and found a company that will custom build them for you in California. And so it was a whirlwind from there, because we decided to go ahead with it in June, or in July. We got our custom trailer set up with this guy. In August, I quit my job of 13 and a half years to start marketing for our business that had not quite come to fruition yet. I sold my Jeep Rubicon, which was the love of my life, and bought a beast of a Ram 2500 to tow the trailer with. I cried when I traded in my truck. I made the dealer very uncomfortable. But we did that. And then in September, we took our first cross-country trip ever and drove to California to pick up our game truck, and drove it home, and had our first event in the first week of October of 2018. And we've been moving ever since, growing and exploring new options for the game truck. And yeah, I still sit here like 2 years later going, what just happened? I wake up in the morning ready to go to my retail job still occasionally, where it was just a routine. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a whirlwind year, but it was worth it. It was so much fun,
Awesome.
trying to figure
Great.
things out. It's been a lot of learning, because we, as a couple and a business couple, we had no experience in business. So it was all completely, learning experiences. And I have to say, networking was really a huge part of
Mm-hmm.
learning what we should and shouldn't be doing, and
Right.
growing.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I think a lot of people think they have to have all the answers before they
Yeah,
start the entrepreneurial journey. And I want to quote Margaret Lee from Collab, who said to me one time, "You don't get better at something by not doing it."
that's
And
true.
it's really obvious when you hear
Yeah.
that, but I so needed to hear that because I have my own coaching and consulting business. And I was actually talking with her before I really started doing any coaching. And she was like, "You just start coaching people and you'll
Yeah.
figure out like who you help and what you do and all that sort of thing." And one of the things that I found that I love about this entrepreneurial journey is the constant learning,
Yeah.
because I always like I want to do things and they're outside of my level of expertise, which means I am pulled. And I'm a lifelong learner. I'm an incredibly curious person. And especially if I know something is possible, but I don't know how to do it, I'm like, I'm going to figure it out, or I'm going to find somebody to figure it out. And so I agree, like networking is the way to do it. Like for example, I'm going to be doing my first webinar. So I went back and binge watched Digital Media Sync, which is one of the shows I was talking about earlier, because she had this whole series on doing a virtual program, like how to do it. So I asked for help. I'm working with Rick Callahan of Creative to help me figure out what do I do next, in what order, and all that sort of thing. And we met through networking. And
Yeah.
I bet you get a lot of your gigs through networking. And then
Oh,
there's the
yeah.
fact that, like, I remember one time you told me, you did a school event and then you get a whole bunch of birthday party bookings off of that school event because the kids went home. They're like, "Mom, we totally have to do that." That's networking.
That's
That's
what it
making
is. Yeah.
right.
And you
Yeah.
have to totally be willing to jump out of your comfort zone to do that kind of stuff. And it's funny, the quote from your friend is something that we got similar advice on, and have gotten again and again over the last 2 years, is you just have, if you spend so much time researching the business and all the little nuances of it, you spend so much time looking into this thing that by the time you get into the actual business, you're way behind the curve, you know, and you just, sometimes you're better off, as long as it's not something that's going to cause any kind of issues within your business, you're better off just trying it, you know, make the mistakes, you know, or, you know, ask for forgiveness later, you know, and just jump right into it. And that's kind of what we did. And that's what we've been doing all along, is just, you know, well, let's just try it, you know, and some things we spend money on and we realize it's just not worth doing. And then we, you know, we don't do that again.
Right.
You know, and
yeah, exactly.
you're
Yeah.
like, let's give it a shot. You know, we do discounts for any kind of community centers, religious, you know, schools, and regular educational schools. We do discounts for them. You know, we charge a very inexpensive rate, because we know, you know, we may take that day and not have any other parties, but in the end, we're going to get all of those kids going home and saying, oh my God, we did this at school today. It was so much fun. Can I have this for my birthday party? You know, and I've booked teachers, you know, events. I did an engagement party one time, you know, and it was off of a kids event, you know, so it was like, you never know, you know, where it's going to go. So sometimes it's worth spending a little of your own money, you know, business, your business's money, in order to make that money later. You have to just take those risks and figure things out. Yeah.
So I do want to let people know that, you know, Amie had made a video that she was going to show of the inside of the truck, and we're having some technical difficulties this morning. So I actually am going to try to put the website up, and we didn't have time for her to tell me where to go and all that stuff. So we're going to try to wing it right now. So I'm going to try sharing my screen. And all right, select window or screen. Let's see. Let's go to entire screen. Okay. Can you see that, Amie?
I can. Awesome.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So what would you like me to do? You want me to go to the gallery, or?
Let's go to the gallery if you want. We can look at a couple of pictures and I can kind of just talk about it. You know, if you go to the website, it gives you a good, you know, a good sense of like, that's the truck that I pull, and there's my Ram that I had to trade my or car and my Jeep in for. But yeah, we have, it's a good sized truck. So I always do remind people of that. That's actually at Springfield College, that picture. So we do college events too, and the kids have a really good time with that kind of stuff.
So these pictures, I'm guessing, are pre-quarantine with all the kids sitting so close to each other.
Yes, those are pre-quarantine. Before quarantine, we were able to get around 20 kids at a time in the game truck, all with controllers. So if you go to our Facebook or our Instagram, you'll start to see, you know, around June is when we started to run some, you know, some business again. And from there on, you're going to see all the masks, because everybody has to wear them now. So, but you know, you can see there's kids sitting in chairs in the little cubbies, and they're experiencing the virtual reality, while the kids that are sitting on that long bench are playing regular video games on our 50-inch TVs. Yeah. So, you know, everybody can do something while they're in
I know that's the church group, because I know those kids.
Yeah, that was a great picture. It was so fun to see the girls playing. They were playing Mario Kart, because Mario Kart's a classic, so you have to have that. But our game coaches are always, you know, they're really into helping the kids make sure that they can see everything the right way through the system, and give them, you know, all of the help that they need. That was a father and son, actually, that were on a roller coaster that we kind of synced so they could do it together, which was kind of cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was fun. So, and the racing simulator, we have a lot of pictures of that, because people just are blown away by it, because it's an actual like racing simulator, and the kids or the adults, that's a dad from a birthday party, actually, who had to try it. And, you know, it's just, as long as you don't get motion sickness, you know, it's a really incredible experience. You know, being in these foreign race cars that you might never ever try in real life. And they really do handle it.
I got to get my sweetheart on here. So he's a motorcycle guy. He has 4 motorcycles and 7 mopeds, and he's been motorcycling for 46 years. And he just said to me something the other day about how do you feel about me doing motorcycle racing? And I was like, hell no. because he's used to being alive. And he's like, well, how about moped racing? I'm like, okay, you can do moped racing. But here's
something about a moped sounds a little safer.
This is yeah, because they can only go 30 miles an hour. But this sounds like
he
a
wears
lot
a helmet.
safer. Yeah, well, he does. I call him Mr. Safety. He does. Like, I have to wear a helmet. I have to wear gloves. I have to wear closed-toed shoes, jeans, and a either like a leather or a biker jacket, even on a moped. So he's
That's
Mr.
good.
Safety.
That's good.
Okay, so this is really cool to be able to see these pictures, because it's one thing for us to talk about it, but it's entirely different to be able to see, like, okay, this is what this looks like. And I love how you have picture, like, it's clearly all different kinds of people. It's not like I pictured like white teenage suburban boys, you know, and clearly you've got like the whole gamut of different types of people
and I
here.
think that's what people always associate with, you know, and we do a ton of parties, like just all over the state. You know, we've been to so many areas. I am so familiar with the state of Connecticut now, and my navigational skills are like so much better than they used to be, where like I used to be like, I need a landmark. I don't know roads. I don't know routes. Just tell me what's around the area. Now I'm like, oh yeah, you know, we'll go down to Route 25 and we can get up to Newtown from there, or we'll go, you know, like, and I'm just like, gosh, you know. So we do have a ton of games. We have the virtual reality.
I don't know what any of this means, but I'm sure somebody does. So tell me what we're looking at here.
The way we have it set up on the website is nice, just because it gives parents an idea of what types of games we have. You know, games are games that are rated for everybody. They're like the G-rated games in the gaming world systems. You know, whereas M is mature, so those are the more violent games. You know, and we do have a little of everything, so that we can, you know, make sure there's something to accommodate all age groups and people. And then the VR obviously are all of the virtual reality games that we have. We use PlayStation 4 to run our virtual reality, because they just have some really great games and experiences. But it's nice for the parents to kind of go in and go, okay, my kids like these games, or, you know, I want these games off limits or whatever. And, you know, we'll kind of, we bring the whole library with us no matter what, but it gives us an idea of how to customize for them.
Okay. Anything else on the website you want me to make sure that I show?
I don't think so. I mean, really, you know, the list of games is really ginormous, and it's constantly updating. We actually need to update some more.
Stop sharing.
But yeah, it's you know, and you know, again, Facebook and Instagram have a lot of videos. And, you know, I think we have mostly just stills on the website, but I'm posting videos and photos every single day, you know, from all the events, as long as we get permission to take pictures, we'll take them and post them.
Yeah. And actually that's, you know, I followed you. I'm not a big Facebook person, but I definitely follow you on Instagram. And what's really funny is, so I think I talked to you one time during quarantine. And then one day I was at Target in North Haven, and there was her truck. And I was in a hurry, otherwise I would have walked over to the truck. So I snapped a picture of the truck and I texted her, and I was like, good to see that you're out and about. And so we were like, let's chat. And as we were chatting, I was like, wait a minute, we need to have you come on to our show. So this is great. I'm really glad that even though the video didn't work out, that was awesome to be able to show people all the photos so they can see, like, it's much more approachable. Like, this is what the size of the truck is. This is what the insides look like. This is what the games look like. All different kinds of people from all different walks of life are on the show. I mean, she's not on the show, you know, like to play the games and that sort of thing. So what are some of your favorite games and why?
Oh God. So there's a virtual reality game called Beat Saber, which most kids will know. And if you go on YouTube and look up Beat Saber, there are some incredible videos of people playing this game. And I am subpar compared to the way people play, but it's a rhythm game. For anybody who's familiar with like Guitar Hero or Dance Dance Revolution, it's kind of in that genre. And you've got lightsabers and you have to like hit the cubes to the music, and you're in the headset and you feel like you are like this amazing DJ, or like you're like in a club, like, and you look, and then when you look at videos of yourself, you're like, oh, I look like I'm swatting bugs. But when you're in the headset, it's the most fun game, just because the music is great, and you know, it's a workout. Your shoulders start to hurt after a while, and you just feel really good when you leave this game. So that's one of my favorites. You know, and then there's other types of games too for people who aren't into that stuff. There's a game called Astrobot, which is another one of my favorites because it's like a really, I think people associate it with kids, but then it's actually a challenging game. It's like a platform, what they call a platform game, which is like a Mario style game. So you're controlling this little robot and you're just going through this world that you're in. And it really, it immerses you like you're part of the game. So you're controlling this little robot, but you're actually a robot who's standing behind him. And they were so clever when they created this game, because you'll do things like you'll look at the reflection in the water and you'll see your robotic reflection, you know,
Wow.
or, you know, in order to get to another part, you actually have to blow on a dandelion and you're, you know, and watch the little things float away.
Wow.
And you actually have to like, you know, like you have to blow and you watch it all like go away, and then it opens up another part of the world. So it's so like interactive for you. And that's the thing I love about virtual reality, is it's getting more and more like detailed, and you do forget, you know, like you'll pull the headset off and you're like, oh my God, you know, like I forgot
Back
I
in
was here.
regular
Back
reality.
in
Yeah.
the real world. Yeah. So it's just, it's a moment away from that, which is really incredible. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, the people who are creating this stuff is, they're just so clever.
Yeah, you know what? It just made me think of when you were saying that. I used to watch Star Trek, and they had the holodeck to
Mm-hmm.
go and have a virtual experience on whatever
Yes.
planet or whatever you wanted to, and it sounds like that. So I have to say, like, I have never been a gaming person, and part of the reason is I have a rather addictive personality. So I could see me literally playing a game until I die, and like just going down this rabbit hole. And I've never really done, like, I have solitaire, wordscapes, and words with friends on my phone, and that's like a lot for me. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy, but like, I'm not going to lose my mind or my job from doing
Yeah.
that. But I will tell you, the way that you're describing virtual reality sounds really appealing to me. Like, I'm like, okay, who can I get together? And I live across from Fort Hill Park. Also, actually, we have a really big visitor parking lot. I could literally have you come here and invite friends. So I gotta put my thinking cap on about how to do that, because I would really love to do that, and I know that Chuck would absolutely love to try your your racing thing.
Yeah.
Oh, so Rick says, so excited to learn about all this. Can't wait to try. So I think we've probably converted
Oh,
another person who's
very
interested
cool.
in
Yeah.
playing the game. So let's say that somebody is watching this and they think that this is a really dope idea, and they want to have their own virtual reality truck, and maybe they live in like Maine. So a part
Yeah.
of New England they can't get to.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for them to get started?
Um, well, I mean, I'm always willing and welcome to talk to people, because I do have some great contacts with people. The gentleman that I worked with to get my truck started, and we're actually affiliated now. It's, we have our own business, but I am his like East Coast liaison, so I can connect people with him. But in general, there's so many options out there, so it's important to really look into, are you interested in a franchise? Do you want to own your own business? Do you want to, build it from scratch? I know people who have done all of those things.
Okay.
So um the first thing I think to do is to figure out what type of business you're interested in. But I'm always willing to sit down and talk with people and give them,
Okay.
advice on where to start.
Okay. And so, as you can see, we have Amy's contact information here. And I forgot to actually post the comment that, excuse me, not the comment, but oh, I'm getting lost in my controls here, that if people have questions or comments, they can go ahead and put them up. So if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, even if you're watching the recording, go ahead and leave a comment, and we'll make sure that it gets to Amy if it's for her.
Absolutely.
Or you can email her at info@vrgametrucknewengland.com, and then we've got the Instagram and Facebook there. But
And I monitor all of those. So if it's easier for someone to message me on Facebook or Instagram, I definitely can answer any of them really quickly, because I'm pretty much attached to the business phone 24 hours a day now. So
okay.
but I do love to talk about it, and I love to connect with other game truck operators. I pretty much know or have contact with every game truck operator in the country right now, which is
Oh,
really
wow.
amazing. It's a
Okay, that's
fantastic,
awesome.
it's another networking, situation where, we're constantly communicating with each other going, oh, have you tried this game? Oh, this didn't work. Oh, have you tried this, driving simulator or racing wheel or whatever? And, so we have a lot of connections with people, and we're always
I
willing
bet
to
that came in handy with the quarantine, like when you started to do, like, how
Yes.
do we do social distancing? What do you do? What are you guys
Oh,
doing? 'Cause,
yeah. Yes.
different states opened up at different times, so that must have
Right.
been really handy.
Yeah, it was. I actually have connections with a gentleman in Atlanta, Georgia, that they opened up a little before us. So it was kind of watching their process of getting back into it and figuring out what the best way to handle, safe practices within the business was. And, we kind of went from there. But yeah, it's good
Great.
to have those. People think of it as like, oh, that's your competition. No, well, I mean, obviously Atlanta's not my competition, but even people in, New Jersey, Long Island, New York, we all communicate in a good way, and make sure that we help each other out. Actually, this morning I had a phone call from somebody in Pennsylvania looking for a game truck, and I was like, I'm sorry, I don't go to Pennsylvania. But I knew somebody who had one in New Jersey, so I contacted him to see if maybe he was close enough that
Yeah.
he could reach out to her. So
Yeah, I was
that's
just gonna say that sounds perfect. That way, if someone is not in your area, maybe they're in the area of someone else you know. So that's great. Like
exactly.
having, yeah, and just
Yeah.
being connected to the people in your same business is
I
really, really helpful.
I
Yeah.
truly believe that, like, you have to look at competition as it's competition, but it's also, you know, a business partner. It's somebody else who I'm always willing to help. Like, I always
Yeah.
want to do what I can to help other people in my sphere, whether they
Yeah.
own a game truck, or there's a lot of virtual reality, like brick and mortar buildings now, and they're, struggling with a totally different situation with regards to COVID, so helping each other out. I know a gentleman who has a place in Trumbull in the Holly Lane Mall, and we're constantly in communication with each other. I go down there and visit him all the time, and kind of check in on how his business
Mhm.
is going and what we can do to help them. And we're
Yeah.
always referring business to each other. So
Yeah.
you
That's
know
great.
competitors aren't, it's good to befriend them, because
Yeah, I mean,
you never know.
it sounds to me like you're talking about cooperation and
Yes.
collaboration, and I would say, just to plug known co-working again, whether it's the virtual world, but especially in the physical world, that one of the great things about co-working is this sense of collaboration, and I call it cross-pollination that happens. It's really it's a way to have community and be an entrepreneur at the same time.
Mhm.
So we're winding down here, and I wonder if there's anything that you really wanted to share that you didn't get an opportunity to say, or if there's anything else you want to reiterate before we sign off.
Not really. I mean, we've talked about, I think, everything that I could think of to talk about, which, I love to talk. I
Great.
love to hear my own voice. If there's anything I love, it's to talk. So I
I say
appreciate
I
you.
love a captive audience, so I'm with you. I told you we were saying before the show came on that we're kindred spirits. So we've hit
Yes.
it off since the first time we met for coffee. So
Yeah. But I really do appreciate you and Known. And I keep saying I need to come down there and see Known,
yeah,
and get a better. But I've talked about it to a few people actually now, and it's funny because I don't think there's enough people. I don't think a lot of people know about these co-op working spaces, and whether you're a part of a larger company and you're just working from home,
hmm,
or you're starting your own business, it's a great place to kind of just start and be social, because especially right now,
absolutely. Yeah,
it's so hard working from home, and I think it hits people mentally, as much as
yeah,
physically. And so just
yeah,
to have a place to go, even if it's once a week or something, to
yes,
see other faces and have that social aspect of it, it's it's healthy mentally and physically,
absolutely,
so
absolutely.
places like Known, are really great opportunities to keep
Yeah,
people healthy in the situations that
yeah,
we're in right now. And I think people need to think of it more like that,
mhm,
as
yeah.
yes, it's a working space, but it's also, it's good for you. Like, it's good for your soul,
Yeah, I
because
couldn't have
people
said
need
it
each
better
other.
myself.
Yeah.
So if you want to hold on for a minute, I'm going to take you off screen and we can chat for a second, but I do want to close out. So don't go anywhere.
Okay.
But thank you so much. This is really great. So thank you everybody for being on our first episode of the newly branded Connection Corner. And thanks again to Amie. That was really great. And she has made me actually want to try virtual reality games. I do want to remind you that next week on Digital Media Sync, the show airs at 8:30 every Tuesday, and we're going to be having Chris Tonsky from Fusion Design on the show again. Julia will be hosting her. I say we, I mean Julia. And they'll be talking about e-commerce, specifically the small business power combo of WordPress slash WooCommerce and Stripe. So be sure to tune in for that. And don't forget that 2 weeks from today, the Connection Corner is going to feature Margaret from Wheat and Cycles. And she's going to be talking about how to avoid being embezzled by an employee. She was embezzled by an employee, and it was absolutely devastating to her personally and to her business. And she has taken it upon herself to go out into the community and share with people, these are the signs that you can look for, and these are the things you can put in place to make sure that this doesn't happen to you, because she wants to make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else. So that'll be 2 weeks from today. And go ahead and leave comments, even if you're watching the recording, because we'll get them back to Amie. Thank you so much. Have a great day.